First up is Ash. You may have seen my previous video where I went over the different roles and loadouts. I'll fill you in about the loadouts I'm talking about as we go. 1. Ash throws a shuriken at his enemies. In Conclave, your first ability is always your finisher. For example, you get your opponent on low health and he runs away. You use your one and kill him before he can get out of close range. 2. Invisibility. The only real reason to use this is obviously running away when you're at low health or doing a sneak attack. 3. Teleports you over to your enemies. This is best used with the shotgun and if your enemies don't expect you. Remember, you're going to them, so be careful. 4. The Uzumaki Barrage, Blade Storm, has clones attack your opponents. You can teleport over to your enemies and do the Blade Storm. As you could probably tell, Ash is best used at close range, which means a close range loadout would be ideal. This consists of the Corinth Oxide and Typho. Corinth because of its damage and air burst, secondary fire. Oxide because of its fast fire rate, and Typho because of its fast attack speed. Ash is a close range frame, so I added all of his stats except for his speed stat. I multiplied the speed stat by the sum. This is because speed is very important for close range players. This brings Ash's close range rating to 456. 75. Just to fill you in, the close range players are supposed to be running around the map trying to take out as many enemies as possible. This is their role as offensive players. Moving on, we have Banshee. 1. Sonic Boom knocks down your enemies. This is great for countering melee attacks. 2. Sonar. This reveals your opponent's location on the minimap to you and your team. 3. Silence cancels any active abilities. An example would be stopping an enemy NYX from turning on friendly fire. 4. Soundquake is good for disrupting defensive players such as Bolt and Rhino who stay on the ground most of the time. Soundquake only affects players on the ground. Unlike Ash, Banshee is more of a support frame. She's suited for doing damage from a long range, then popping into the fray unexpectedly with her abilities. A long range from needs a long range loadout. For that you'll want to use the Fuker Lex, or Zogti, and Serena. As of now, the best snipers are the Vectis, Fuker, and Rubiko. The Fuker has the best zoom and you're looking for accuracy over damage in this loadout. The Zogti hits you once, then inflicts toxic damage in a second plume after you hit your target. Debatably, this makes the Zogti more accurate than most other pistols. Lastly, the Serena, the glaive that does the most damage in the game. For long range, you obviously need a long range melee weapon. Banshee isn't a close range frame, so we won't need to multiply the speed stat, making her rating 426. 1. Banshee's role as a long-range frame is to do damage from a long range and support her allies with her abilities. This is her role as a support frame. Next up is Equinox. 1. Metamorphosis. Day to night gives you a damage and speed boost, while night to day gives you armor. 2. Rest night form puts enemies to sleep for a few seconds. Rage day form strips armor. 3. Pacify night form reduces incoming damage. Provoke day form increases your ally's ability strength. 4. Mend night form heals your allies with each kill. Maim day form does slash damage. For this frame, I'll be reviewing both sides individually. The first ability doesn't count because it switches between them. Night Equinox. 2. Rest can be used to take out high-speed offensive players. If you're slowed down in Conclave, you're as good as dead. 3. Pacify is like putting on armor. Use this when taking lots of damage. 4. Mend is great when you notice that your allies are on a kill streak and have low health. But that's only a really slim chance of that happening if your allies aren't coordinated with you in a voice chat. Day Equinox. 2. Rage is great for enemies with armor abilities like Rhino and Inneros. 3. Provoke is good for helping out the offensive players. A good example would be Excalibur's Exalted Blade. 4. Maim should be used when you're surrounded by enemies. AoE abilities are perfect for this. Most of Equinox's abilities are support-based, and thus she should have a support/long-range loadout. Just like Banshee. Her overall rating is 436. 15. Moving on, we have Harrow. 1. Condemn chains the enemy. This only slows them down and prevents them from jumping, which can be a death sentence in Conclave. 2. Penance sacrifices all shields for a faster reload and fire rate. Damage inflicted gives you and your allies health. This is great for the high damage sniper loadout you'll be using. 3. Thirstable generates a buff and kills strengthen the buff. Also, you passively give your allies energy. It depends on what the buff is that defines how this can be used. 4. Covenant absorbs allies in an aura that takes damage and turns it into critical chance. Use this when your team is losing. Harrow is long-range frame, so he'll need a long-range loadout. His overall rating is 471. Keep in mind Harrow is a support frame. Next we have Ivara. She has 4 first abilities, so we'll have to go over each of them. 1A. Encumbered arrows. This stops your enemies from jumping. Use these on offensive high-speed close-range frames like Gara or Nezam. 1B. Shield removers removes shields. Obviously use these on high-shielded enemies. 1C. Cloak. Don't use this, it's obvious to other people where you are. 2. Navigator. You most likely will not hit other people using this ability. The arrow moves too slow and the players are too fast. Use this to scout the area for incoming enemies, like a surveillance drone. 3. Prowl. Use this to go invisible. Just like Ash, use this when you're at low health and running away. 4. Artemis Vow. Use this ability at long ranges on targets that have lots of health and shields. Ivara is a long-range frame, thus she'll be using a long-range loadout. Her overall rating is 491. 15. This frame should be used to long ranges, supporting her allies and doing damage from a distance. Finally we have Hydroid. 1. Tempest Barrage. Basically a water airstrike. Charge it first and target slower enemies for maximum efficiency. 2. Tidal Surge. Use this as a way to get away from your enemies. They can't touch you without taking a hit while you're moving. It will take some practice though. 3. Undertow. This move is useless in Conclave unless your enemies have no idea where you are. Maybe you can use this for ambushes, but you'd have to find a spot on each map to do it. 4. Tentacle Swarm. In PvE this ultimate is great crowd control. But in Conclave it's so easy to get away from, it's not worth it. Hydroid is a defensive frame. His abilities based on holding down one point, which is crucial in Cephalon capture. Defensive frames are dealing with enemies at close range, so they'll be using a close range loadout, just like Ash has. Hydroid's close range rating is 475. That wraps it up for this video. Thanks for watching and I hope you found this video informative. Welcome back everyone to Who's Your Main, where we discuss how people should play the many warframes available in Conclave. Today we'll be going over Ash, Banshee, Equinox, Harrow, and Hydroid. Before we begin, I would like to shout out the Tainted Fatebringers clan on PS4.